Hey everyone, good morning. We're so excited to be here. And I am Mariana, and I'm here with Kaya from retention.com and Zach, my friend from Toki. Hey, you guys. We were just talking about what's going on in different places, and we're just here like waiting for the time to hit 10 o'clock to 10 o'clock PT actually. So what time is it again in Toronto, Kyle?
I'm looking at 1 o'clock on my
And
clock.
is that the same for you, Zach?
No, I'm Mountain Time. I'm out in Salt Lake, so it's 11.
I love mountain time. It's so special.
I know. It's the best.
Yeah, cool. Okay, so Kyle was just talking about what's going on in retention and how they are doing a lot of RL events as well and meeting people in real life, building community. And I think, life is a lot about that. And I think like the whole idea of us doing things digital is so that people can actually have more access to content and to people that might be in complete different sides of the country or the continent in this case. But at the same time, I want to say that I love in-person events, so I hope to see you guys and meet you guys in person soon too.
I'm sure you will.
Yeah,
We'll make it
definitely.
happen.
Yeah,
Are you
right.
you guys are gonna be out in New York here in a couple weeks for Growing the Lead, yeah? Kyle?
Me?
We'll be out there.
Okay, cool. Mariana, are you gonna be out there?
I should, right? I should
Me
actually
too.
look up
Me too.
some flights.
Yeah, definitely. No, there's a lot going on for sure. Should be a lot of fun.
Right? Yeah. All right. And we're very excited to launch Retention Revolution with our one of our guests, Kyle, who's going to be at a first event happening July 2nd, so next week. And
Coming
yeah,
up
and
fast.
yes, right? Oh my gosh. And apart from Kyle at that event, we're also going to have a few different people. So David Rudd would be there with us, representing someone who knows a lot about customer data and loves talking about it and likes to like dive really deep into it as well. And then we'll also have Ashley from Soy Kitty next week, and she will bring the brand kind of like side of things. She's been building a lot of customer journeys and like a lot of like marketing uh, around um, around different brands, and then now for her brand Soy Kitty, which is an eco-friendly litter for cats, which is very exciting. And she'll be joining us from Mexico, I think, because that's where she lives. So I think I'm very excited for this group to chat about different things.
It's a good group.
Yeah. But today, so we organized a few questions to ask Kyle about retention. And Zach, I actually want to pass the word to you so that you can kind of
Okay.
like, yeah.
Yeah. Let's dive into it. So I think one of the main topics that I wanted to cover today, Kyle, was just like the evolution of the customer journey and how that's changing. So I feel like, as everyone else has noticed, it's like paid acquisition isn't working as well. There's a lot of different like strategies and ways that you can go and attract new customers. But what are some of those strategies that you're seeing that work the best? Whether it's from a retention side or from the brand side when talking to different brands on kind of what's working as far as different growth strategies.
Yeah, I mean, well, everyone that we're talking to nowadays is really jumping onto the TikTok shops and social buying and just trying to get their brand out there as much as possible in that very like top of funnel and just really trying to build more and more in that top of funnel phase. Because I think one of the trends that we're seeing, which everyone is seeing, and I mean, I even get caught up in it as well, is just there's a lot more impulse buying.
Yeah.
Like people, there were those days where you do like a lot of research and then you go to the website, you make the purchase. And then now, like even myself, I'll just find myself, I really respect a good marketing strategy. And when someone has like a really good funnel and I'm just like clicking along and like my doom scrolling, and all of a sudden, next thing you know, I got something in my cart and I'm like, they got me. And I'm like,
Yeah.
here in Canada, I'm looking at like the USD shipping, the import fees, like the conversion. And I'm like, I still respect their funnel and their process, so I'll still buy it and I'll become a customer. And
Yeah.
I think because of that, the people who we kind of see are doing the best are really leaning into that. And maybe it's not all about the social selling, but it's like taking that ideology and knowing that there is more impulse buying and trying to get your brand out there in ways that, help catch people in that impulse or help remind them about that impulse. Like whether that's they're on a site and they're doing that and they leave something in their cart. That's where, for example, like a product like ours comes in handy. We help drive more cart abandonment emails for people, because I know myself, get distracted, and then all of a sudden I'm like, I get that reminder, like, oh right, yeah, that's what I was trying to buy, and
Right.
going back and buying that. So I think it's just the brands that are doing it the best are the ones that are really thinking like, hey, it's not just the old traditional, let's do all of our research and then I'm going to come and buy and make my purchase. It's not the traditional funnel. There is a large section of it which is based off impulse, and that impulse has its own quirks about it.
Yeah, no, 100%. I think that's a great point. I catch myself all the time. Like, dude, I'm just scrolling on Instagram and I don't know how many times recently it's like this hat right here was literally an ad that I got. It's like it just happens all the time now that people are like they're not exactly like in a shopping mode when they're on their phone, but it's just like, oh wait, this is sick. I want this. Boom, and you're purchasing. So it's like, how can you convert some of those people? Because it took me probably like 4 or 5 times of actually like seeing this ad, clicking on it to actually convert. But it's like, how can you actually take those people who maybe click on an ad or see an Instagram post or like maybe a collab or some kind of like launch that you did with a creator who maybe went to your site, had no intentions of purchasing at that point, but converting them down the funnel? Because I think I actually saw a tweet. I can't remember who it was, but they were talking about the customer journey and how it is changing. And it's not linear. Like it used to be very straightforward, but it's just like all over the place, and like brands really don't know what to expect. And so it's getting all that data, aggregating and having tools in place to be able to make the most with everyone that touches your site. So I couldn't agree more, man. But
Can I
yeah, I
add
guess
one thing?
of
I think
course, of
another thing
course.
apart, like there's the data and all of that, but I think it's all about persistency at all, like as well. So I mean, with the brands, if I go into like a website and then I will always like go like just not purchase at the first time that I actually go into it or like add stuff to my cart. I just like let it go and then I'll come back to that eventually. But if they're not persistent, they will lose me because there's so much more happening in my life. So I need them to be there with me, like coping with the fact that my life is very busy and I might not be ready to make the decision right at that point, but I might be ready in 3 weeks. So please keep shooting, those ads on to me. So I totally agree. I think persistency is also very important.
Yeah,
Yeah,
no,
I
that's
was
so
actually
true.
Yeah, I was actually just thinking about that. And then the one thing I was thinking about those, there's the people who do the persistence the right way, then there's the people who do it kind of the old school way. And it's like the people, for me, the persistence where they're in my feed, but like that ad, that retargeting ad, or that way that they're continually popping up is like kind of consistently changing. And then there's the people who I see the same 2 or 3 ads over and over again. And it just almost becomes like just part of my scroll. I'm like, oh yeah, no, that ad, like just keep going. And it's just like part of the things I don't click on. So it's definitely persistence is key if you're doing it right.
Yeah, that's super interesting because I feel like, yeah, a lot of those things can get super repetitive. And so it's finding new ways to be creative. Another thing, so I was on another panel yesterday and we were actually kind of chatting about this, but I feel like, I don't know, more and more, I feel like I've been getting like so much SMS recently, and brands I feel like are definitely using the channel. But I would love to hear your approach and like your take on SMS. And then, yeah, we'll leave it at there. We'll start there. Like, how should brands be using SMS? Because it's obviously another touch point, which is super important. But I think along those same lines of like consistency, there's right and wrong ways to go about it.
Yeah, for sure. I'll hop in first, and I'll answer kind of from 2 standpoints, so like kind of my personal, and then how we kind of like look at it at retention. And I mean, personally, same thing. I've been getting like more and more SMS, and it's funny. It's like the brands that do it all, like the brands that do it well, I don't like unsubscribe. Like if they're just like giving me an update about an upcoming sale or something new that they have going on, I might not be purchasing at that time, but I'm like, I like this brand enough to allow them to take up space in my messages. And I like the updates that they're giving me. I'm not annoyed by the cadence that they're doing it. And I know I want to make my initial purchase or buy again from them, whatever it is with a certain brand at some point in time. So I'm just going to keep allowing them to send me these messages. And then, they might send me a, hey, by the way, we have this July 4th sale coming up. And I'm going to be like, okay, now I can just go back to my text message rather than having to go through my emails. And it's like less of a pain in the ass, and might, do it that way. That being said, it's a bit of the Wild West, because if you just like allow all these brands to send you SMS, and some of them it's just way too much and way too often. And it's like anything else, you just have to like control the medium that they're talking to you in. But again, that's why like brands, if they're just doing it right from the beginning and they can stay in the inbox, it'll be good. And I mean, from a retention standpoint, even like with the way that our product works is when we identify a user on someone's website who they weren't previously able to identify and push that over to their ESP, whether it's Klaviyo or whatever it may be. If they have attentive set up, for example, for their SMS, and the person's opted into SMS and email, we actually trigger that and we send an SMS, that SMS trigger out rather than the email. So to us, it's we follow the same guidelines and preferences that not only the brand, but also the customer prefers. So if the customer is opted into text and the customer is opted into email, and the brand has set up their flow in a way where it has text first and email second, our product follows that same guidance. It's like, hey, this is what people want. This is what the brand wants, and follows the same path. So I think SMS is great. It's just got to be a little more protective of that, because it's so close to home.
Yeah, 100%. Do you have any thoughts, Mariana, on that, on SMS specifically?
Yeah, I just think that as a brand, you need to be careful with, because I feel like people might get overwhelmed with too many texts and end up accusing you of like spam or something like that and blocking you, instead of like going into like the no option, because they might not remember that they can do that. And I think that's just something to keep in mind as well.
Yeah, 100%. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, and the one thing that's great about the world that we live in is where if you're a brand and you're just wondering, like, how do I do it right? Just think about the people you didn't unsubscribe in your own inbox, and just look at the messages they're sending you and how often they're sending it and why you haven't unsubscribed, and then just go implement that. It's not hard to figure out the right way to do it.
Yeah, no, 100%. I couldn't agree more. Yeah, and it is so close to home, like you said. It's like those messages that are being sent there, those are your friends and family, coworkers, whatever, the people that you're closest with. And so like to be able to allow a brand to be there in that same space, they definitely have to be doing something right. So I love that. But I want to go back a little bit on a point you hit previously on just like TikTok shops and socials in general. I think one of the biggest questions is just like, if with TikTok shop and everything going on, like obviously it's blowing up, but I feel like how can a brand really make the most of selling on TikTok shop, just because it is like the wild, wild west right now? Would love to hear like kind of what you've seen across the brands that you've worked with, and like what's been working the best for them, as far as like not only getting them in the door to make that first purchase, but converting them down the line as well.
Yeah, I think when I think of it like a little more holistically, because it's, again, even with some states talking about like banning TikTok and who knows what's going on with TikTok and like all this stuff going on, there's a lot of opportunity. At the same time, like you also have to protect your brand and really think about like the money that you're investing. And so when I think about like how to get the most out of like TikTok or TikTok shop, or trying to build like a social selling presence, it's kind of one of those things where it's like, if you want to get into retail, then you have to buy a store, hire customers. There's all these like overhead costs that go into it. And like, it's not just like putting or if you're just getting into, other like outsourced retail, there's still like retail managers, more people that you have to hire. With TikTok shop, it's not just like setting up the shop. You have like a whole new content engine that you have to stay on top of. You need people to manage that. You need content creators. And it is this whole motion. And I think the ones that are going to do it the best are the ones that don't just make the content specifically for TikTok. I think it's ones that can kind of like create content that's a little more channel agnostic. And it's like, okay, let's go out and like do this event and capture, this and this and this. And it's something that they can use for their own website or their own socials, but also like put it on the TikTok shop, and just making sure to create that own something that's more like personally owned, or it's like owned by the brand as well. Cause I feel like just creating a whole bunch of stuff and investing solely in content that's just going to only live on TikTok and be there for the TikTok shops, they're just not getting the best bang for their buck. Whereas if you can get like a little more legs out of your content, because it costs money to make, and that's money that could be used for any other channels or any other ways to grow your brand. Just thinking a little bit deeper about the actual content creation, I think, are the ones that are going to do better with it.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Any thoughts?
I think that's it. And just there's a lot going on there. So yeah, you definitely need to differentiate yourself and not just be another one in the ocean of content.
Yeah. And I think at least another thing for me that I resonate when I see brands across socials, whether it's Instagram or TikTok or even YouTube, there's obviously a handful of brands that stand out to me when it comes to YouTube and what they're doing there currently. But I feel like being able to tell a story and get people to like buy into the story that's being told is so important. So when you're thinking about going and collaborating with different, whether it's creators or other brands, it's like, how can you curate the story that makes sense for you and what you're doing from a brand perspective? And so, yeah, when you are creating that content, it's like, how can you bring all these different points and pieces together to create this holistic story for people to buy into and want to continuously follow?
Yeah, that's exactly it, right? Like the story is something that can live across like any channel. And when someone like interacts with you on the TikTok shop, and maybe they convert there, maybe they don't, but then they happen to be on YouTube and like see a YouTube video, and it's still from your brand, but the same story is tied in there. They just like anytime they're hitting a touch point with your brand, they still have that same story, and like it's the people that buy are the ones that resonate to the story the most, right? So I think that story piece is key.
Yeah, 100%. And so I guess with like this new trend in social commerce, I'm sure like obviously TikTok shops, everything else, it's like more people are converting on other platforms and they're not owning 100% of that data. So from a retention perspective, like, yes, we have the ability to tell these stories, bring people into this community. But as far as like retargeting and trying to get like others in the door, what it with just this like social commerce in general, like what's kind of your take on the direction that things are going in that sense?
I mean, my like just outright take is I like the more traditional e-commerce, that just flat out. I mean, the social, it's good, but like I said, it just supports more impulse buying. It supports less brand connection. Like when like again, just going back to my own impulse buys, there's sometimes when like I don't even recognize the brand until I get to the checkout, and then I'm kind of like, wait, I didn't even like research to see if there's other brands that are just as good as this one for like a same or better price. It's kind of like just getting rid of that research phase, and like completely wiping out the consideration phase. And brands have spent a lot of time and effort and money to build their e-commerce sites and their brands, and to have these stories and these journeys and these case studies and whatever it else is. And if you just end up in a space where you're completely relying socially or completely on social commerce, that just doesn't leave much left for you, right? Like you don't have the traffic on your website, you're not getting the click-through rates, you're not building a funnel, and that traffic and that data and the people coming into your funnel, like that's all first party owned. Like that's stuff that your business owns, that helps build the worth of your business. So for me, the more traffic, the more purchases that can happen on the website rather than social commerce, I think brings in more value than just the dollar value alone. Whereas on the social commerce, it's a bit of a double-edged sword. You're getting the dollars, but what is that dollar costing you?
Interesting. Yeah, I don't know, I go back and forth because I feel like sometimes there is less friction there from a consumer
Yeah.
standpoint, where it's like, oh, sick, impulse buy, you can just go right then and there and check out, especially with TikTok Shop. That like they're promoting those videos like crazy and products like crazy. But no, I agree with you. So it's like how, I guess from a brand perspective, like how can you get those people to not only convert from like watching your content, but to actually get them to your site? It's like, I feel like that's the biggest question because you need that data to be able to go and retarget and get those people through the door eventually. So like figuring out those strategies, whether it's through like creating those stories and just getting more engagement from the audience in general. I feel like brands who are able to do that are going to win because they're going to own that data for the long term and be able to retarget those same people. Um,
Yeah. I mean, for me, like it's like one of the, for example, like Athletic Greens, they're one of our customers, and I think it's one brand that does it well. And again, I use that as a personal reference. That's why I bring them up because I've first purchased with them, more of an impulse social selling, one of those ones I just caught myself down a funnel, and then I'm
yeah,
like, you know what, I'm in, and then I bought it,
yeah,
and then but it was the post purchase with their continued like email flows and their follow up, and then still getting ads as a customer and still staying like top of mind. And um, there's an entire journey that needs to be built around the impulse buyers. So I
yeah.
think the brands that do it best are the ones that just recognize there's a certain cohort that they need to label as impulse, and then there's a certain cohort that they need to label as traditional, and they're going to have their own journeys and nuances in order to get the most LTV out of them.
Yeah, no, I love that. Segmentation is key because yeah, I feel like there's so many different buyers, especially when it comes to like proteins and supplements. It's like people are taking them on different cadences. They come through the funnel in different ways. There are different stages in their like journey, their health journey, I guess. So it's like there you can catch people at so many different spots that you can't really like market the exact same across the board to everyone. So having the
Yeah.
segmentation set up is key to be able to eventually convert them, whether it's right now or down the funnel later on.
Yeah, especially in the supplement space, because you actually know like how many servings of a product that they bought
Yeah,
from you, and when they might be running out, and when you can start pushing more ads towards them or more emails towards them. So
right.
yeah, it's good.
And another point on that, I feel like specifically going back to like supplements, it's like um, there's a lot of educational like content that can be done, whether it's like in your subscription portal or it's like just email content that it's like you don't always have to be whether it's through SMS or email, like trying to sell a product. If you can almost pivot and bring that all into the journey or the content otherwise or in other areas across socials, and you can bring that into your marketing with SMS and email, I feel like that can go a long way where it's almost just like another touch point, not necessarily like, hey, buy this, buy this. It's like, hey, no, this is actually like what we found with a lot of our customers, what works best. Maybe you should try doing XYZ, or even just getting like more data on how it is going. Because yeah, you have a certain supplement or like serving that they should be taking, but it's like maybe they went out of town for a couple weeks, so like their 30 servings or whatever, they're still like barely on like serving 10 or 11 because they went out of town and forgot to take it with them or whatever the
Yeah,
case is, right? So like bringing education and just the story into everything that you're doing, not only across socials, I feel like is a huge hack for brands.
absolutely.
Well, cool. And I know we only got a couple questions left here, or in a little bit more time. But one of my biggest questions that I wanted to dive into was, how do you feel like growth teams, like what should they be asking themselves to be improving some other like retention strategies? And I guess that, yeah, just like overall in general, like what should growth teams be thinking of?
Yeah, I think a little bit back on my last point of really just evaluating the entire customer experience and customer journey, and as you mentioned, the segmentation, and just making sure that you know if you're a company or a brand that hasn't done a great job of segmenting or creating personas for your potential buyers, just start with a couple. If you're a brand that's been doing it a while and you kind of had your three or four personas, is it time to kind of break down and dive deeper into those ones and break out a few more? And then, as we were talking about earlier, it's not linear like it used to be. Like you said, it's forever changing and there's always different things going on. So I think really having a good kind of ear to the ground of what's going on and what's new, and just making sure that you're always trying something new, and just say like, hey, for this next quarter, what are some new things that we can try to implement and test out, and just always be A/B testing a couple of these new trends. And as long as you're just testing them on small cohorts, if they don't work, on to the next one, right? But you're always bound to find something that works.
Yeah, I love that, man. Iteration is key. I just feel like the more you're able to like collect the data, implement, and pivot from a brand standpoint, like, and you're able to do that fast, the better you're going to be able to like win those customers over long term, and have them really buy into what you're doing. So
yeah, for example, like just one last example, like Lululemon. I know I'm a big fan of Lulu. Actually, we got like custom retention shirts with like Lulu's. Nice as well.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's like them, for example, like you purchase from them and then they keep sending you recommendations post-purchase for like different yoga classes or run clubs that you can sign up and join. And then even send you recommendations based off of like your size and the length and the material that you previously purchased. So it's really like taking things that they already know about you and just getting super hyper personalized and just continuing to, change up that journey.
Yeah, I love that. Bro, you mentioned run clubs. It's like, to kind of go off topic, dude, it is the craziest thing in the world. I feel like
the Austin Run Club,
it's crazy. Have you seen the Rock Dog Run Club? Those guys, like,
yeah, I knew you were going to mention them.
Yeah, dude, they're crazy.
I didn't know about them until I was in Austin about a month ago, and again, because I'm up here in Canada, we don't get all of it. And like I'm all into that world, but there's like one guy I follow like out of Austin a lot on Instagram, Nick Bear from like BPN Subs, and anyways, I always kind of followed his stuff, and then I went down to Austin, and I was like, oh, I wonder like where all these guys run at, and then I was like on South Congress, and I just see like I shit you not, it was like 6 a.m. and I'm just starting my day, and there's like 100 people running past me, and I'm like,
no way,
man. Austin is getting it right now. Like these people are going. And then I started like just looking, I looked up Austin Run Club, and then I just went down this rabbit hole for the Raw Dog Run Club. And like what those guys are doing from like a brand building perspective, wild. Like
it's crazy.
They've got a cult. It's awesome.
No, they really do though, dude. Like everyone is so bought in, and like that's who I was referencing before with their YouTube. It's like you're not only getting people on the short form content, but people are buying into this entire journey and story that's being told. All their creators and influencers, like, I don't know, they're just doing a really good job with it overall right now. And I think it's honestly a masterclass for anyone who's trying to build a brand in like currently, because they have been crushing it with everything that they've been doing.
Absolutely. So. Like I'm already thinking about the next time I'm going down to Austin in the fall. Every time I go for my runs right now, I'm like, I am not going to suck when I go run with those guys. And they're like,
and embarrass yourself. Yeah. No, I feel that, man. I feel that 100%. Well, awesome. Yeah. Let's wrap things up. I'm super stoked for the Retention Revolution series. Kyle, thank you so much for hopping on today, man. It's been a blast. And everyone else, this is just a sneak peek on what's going to be happening during the month of July. So make sure to stay tuned for everything else that we got going on. We're going to be announcing the other parts of the series with our different guests over the course of the next couple of weeks. But yeah, we're super stoked to have everyone here, and everyone have a great weekend. It's Friday.
Yeah, it is. Zach, Mariana, thank you.
Yeah, of course.
Thank you. It was awesome. And I just wanted to shout out to REI because I think they're also doing an amazing job like that. I recently bought a tent, and I keep receiving like emails around like where to go camping in California and all of that. So I love it because it's also very local, like hyper local. So yeah, really cool.
Yeah,
amazing.
Okay, everyone. So I'll see you guys on July 2nd with the event Turning Distracted Shoppers into Repeat Customers. So we'll dive deep into that. And with Kyle and David Rabb and Ashley Hagelick from Soy Kitty. So very excited. See you next week.
Awesome.
All right. Thank you guys. See ya.
See you, everybody. Bye.
Bye.